Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make an activity tower for your little kiddo who is, interested in uh, doing different activities that are on your kitchen counter or perhaps, washing their hands on their own. And I'm just going to show you some of the materials first here. Right now, I've got the assembled, I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's from IKEA, maybe Bekväm. It's a wooden stool. I think it was about $15. I went ahead and assembled it. It's about 220 pounds rated, so should be able to support all your children there. And then I've got a 1.5 by 1.5 by 8-foot piece of pine. That's going to be for our 4 posts and 2 of our rails. And then right next to it, I've got a 3/4 inch by 3.5 inch by 6-foot piece of pine. And those are going to be used for 4 of your rails. And then finally, I've got a 5 1/8 inch by 4-foot dowel. That's going to be used on the back side. Then I've also got some wood filler. It's going to fill in the screw holes that we're going to make, and it's just going to make a nice finish so that there's no indentations or anything. And then me and my wife decided on a specific paint color, but you could also stain this and seal it, and it would make a nice finish on it. So after you purchase the stool and assemble it, we're going to put it right up next to your kitchen counters, and this is going to tell us what height we need to cut the posts for. So I'll put it all together, and we'll take a tape measure, and it looks like, based on that corner, we're looking right at around 16 inches. Check the next corner, just make sure. So it's right around 16 inches. That's where we're going to cut our 4 1x5 by 1x5 posts. Alright guys, so now that we measured the height of our counters, we're going to cut the 1.5 by 1.5. We're going to cut 4 pieces of equal length. So I've got my my triangle, tape measure, pencil, and my circ saw. We're going to cut 4 pieces that are 16 inches. Once you have your first piece cut, just go ahead and utilize that as your guide for the other 3 pieces. That way you make sure that all 4 are the same height. So after you slice up the 4 posts, you're going to have 1 more piece left. Depending on your counter height, it may be longer or shorter. Since ours was only 16 inches, we had about 32 inches left over on my 8-foot piece of wood. That's okay. There's going to be 2 more pieces that we need to cut. They're about 6 1/8 of an inch. So as long as you have 13 inches left over on this 5th piece, then you'll be all set. I've got some 120 sandpaper. I'm going to go ahead and level out the bottoms of these. That way they seat level on the stool, and they're all standing up straight. So next, I measured 3/4 of an inch from the edge of the top of the stool, and if you'll look here, they have a beveled edge right here, and so I measured from the left, the inner portion of it, just because I don't want our posts to be overlapping that. I kind of like that. It looks really neat the way they cut that wood. And so I did that for all 4 of the corners. I'm going to use a 1/8 of an inch drill bit to pre-drill these holes. So when you're buying your screws, you want to make sure that they are long enough to go not only through the top step, but also have a good amount of length in order to go through the support posts. What I've got right here is some 1.5 inch screws. And now I marked up my posts. Measure again 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to pre-drill these holes as well. Don't have to go very deep on these, just deep enough to where the screw will get all the way deep into the hole. You don't want to cause any cracks or binds or anything when you screw in the screws. So now I've got a 5/16 bit on my my drill, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the underside of this step, and I'm just going to drill a tiny little bit. That way whenever we screw these in down into the posts, they seat you know, well enough to where they're, sorry, the focus is not working, they seat well enough to where they're flush with the bottom of this. That way when we reattach this to the rest of the stool, it's not going to cause any issues. Remember, we're going to drill on the side that has the plastic fasteners. And here's what they look like after we've done that. I took a little bit of the sandpaper and sanded the edges down. That way it's a nice and smooth finish. Next, we're going to go ahead and take our 4 posts and we're going to attach them to the top step of the stool. Sorry, everybody had to move inside because of the mosquitoes. So now I've got my 4 posts attached. You'll notice I got this one lined up pretty well. What you can do is you can leave a screw out a little bit and you can take the post and turn it. That way you can figure out which 2 sides are going to line up the best with the beveled edge. As you can see on this one, we left a little bit of an edge left over here. But no one's perfect. You know, I'm not a good woodworking, well, I'm not an expert at woodworking, but I'd say I'm a decent woodworker. And next we're going to move on to cut a little bit more wood. Alright, so the next 2 pieces that we're going to cut on the 1.5 by 1.5 are going to be 6 inches, 6 1/8, sorry. It's going to be the exact dimensions in between the 2 posts down here. There may be a little bit of give here between these 2, so you want to make sure that you measure between these 2. It should be the exact same for everybody. It's not going to matter about counter height or anything. So 6 1/8. Alright, so now we're going to attach the rails. These are going to go in the very center of your posts on the sides. Remember, my measurements were about 16 inches, so you want the very center of it to be at 8 inches for mine. Just divide your number in half, and that's where you're going to place these posts, these side rails. They're going to fit right there in between the 2, a little snug. It's good. It's always good to have a little bit of that for support. And we're going to drill through here and do a pilot hole through both this post and this one. Obviously, since this is 1.5 inches wide, we're going to need a little bit longer screw. So I've got some 3-inch screws that are going to go all the way through to about here. Alright, so I've measured exactly halfway between the post at my 8-inch mark. And I also put a couple of guidelines there that is 3/4 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch for a total of 1.5 inches, just so I know where to place my center rail. I've got a 3-inch screw here just to give you a visual on the side. Whenever this goes in, it's going to go in that deep. So you could also do about a 2.5-inch screw. That would probably work. But you definitely don't want to do like a 2-inch screw because it's only going to come down to right here. You definitely don't want this breaking off because this might be something that your infant or toddler holds on to. Just want to, you know, be safe and get about a 2.5 to a 3-inch screw. So we're going to drill in here. We're going to get down in there and we're going to put a screw into each side and do it on this side as well. Okay, now that we have attached our 2 side rails, we're going to cut 2 more pieces, and now we're going to cut it with our 3/4 inch by 3.5 inch board. we're going to cut two pieces that are 14 inches long. It's going to be the same for everybody. And this is going to be our rail across the center and rail across the top that's going to go against the side of our counters. Alright, so 14 inches. Alright, now that we've got these two pieces cut, we're going to establish which side is going to be the back and which is going to be the front. We're going to attach them with two screws on both sides. You want to line this up with the very top edge of these rails, the posts. And then what I'm going to do, and feel free to vary this up because I've seen some folks who want to put it right here, you know, so that it's pretty much centered with the side rail. I'm going to actually put mine down further a little bit to give it an aesthetic look. I measured the distance between here and there is about 12.5 inches. So I want the center of this rail to be right at around 6 1/4. It just gives a more even look to the back, but feel free to do what you want. Remember, now we're going to be drilling into a smaller edge, and you want to probably use just the 1.5 screws because this only adds 3/4 of an inch, and this is 1.5 inches wide, so you know, don't want to go through the back end. And remember, pre-drill your holes. I wanted to mention one more thing. Just make sure whenever you're attaching these side rails that you don't drill into and hit another one of your screws that you've already established in one of the 4 posts. So next we're going to cut a piece of dowel, and it's going to go back here between this piece and that piece. Again, we're going to cut it the exact same length, and it's going to be 14 inches. Alright, so now that we cut our dowel, which is 5/8 of an inch thick, we're going to measure back here on the back 2 posts the exact center, which is 3/4 of an inch from the top and the sides. Then we're going to take a 5/8 spade bit. We're going to drill right through the center. If I can find the center. There you go. I'm going to drill all the way through both sides. And then we're going to slide the dowel in. And we're going to put a little bit of wood glue on the edges so it fits and it will stick inside there. Alright, now that the glue has dried on our wooden dowel, we're going to cut 2 more pieces. These are our last 2 pieces. These are going to be the side rails that are going to go right here. They're going to be 9 7/8 inches long. One thing I wanted to mention, you don't necessarily have to wait for the glue to dry on the wooden dowels, since we're going to be putting a railing that's going to be right here on top of both this post and this post. And I also wanted to mention, you don't even necessarily have to put in wood glue for this. It's going to stick and stay right in here. Obviously the dowel will move if you don't glue it in, but you know, that's up to you if you want to do that. Alrighty, now we got our 2 pieces cut. We're going to put them right here, nice and snug against the 2 posts. Something I want to mention is, don't forget, you have a dowel here, so when you're pre-drilling your holes and putting your screws in, don't forget, it's right there. And also on this side, we have those 2 screws as well, and they're going to come through here, through this post. So just make sure that you put your holes elsewhere. It'll fit right there. Alright, so now that we've got all of our side rails, front rails, posts, everything's attached to the very top step of the stool, I'm going to go ahead and sand on the edges a little bit, just give them a little bit of a smoother appearance, and then we're going to start painting it. Alright, yeah, now we can't paint yet. We got to fill in our screw holes. So I've got some quick wood here. I'm going to take and I'm going to apply to each of our different screw holes, and that way we can have an even surface.